This is my very first podcast, and it's called Confessions from a Pastor's Wife. What this podcast is not is I'm not going to be giving you all the details about my life as a pastor's wife. There will be no tea to be had within that realm. I will be talking about the opportunities that being a pastor's wife has given me and the inspiration and everything that God is giving me now that I am in this role. So as everyone knows, my friends and family, I came up with this idea. Well, God gave me this idea last year. And I'm a chicken. So I was really nervous because I'm not very eloquent. I don't think I'm a speaker. I'm uncomfortable in this, anyone who goes to Sunday ministries, I always have that little bulletin piece of paper, even though it doesn't really change. I need that with me. It's like my security blanket. So, because I will just go blank. All the eyes staring at me, I just go blank. So I had this put on my heart, and I kept getting confirmation after confirmation that yes, this is what I'm supposed to do. Well, half a year went by in 2022 and I didn't do it. I did record a few things, but I just found something wrong with it all the time. So doing it this way forces me into doing it. And for 2023, my word is obedience and discipline. So I'm just being obedient to God and putting this out. I know that God has put a purpose on my life. And I feel like with that, the changing world that we're in, there's some issues that definitely need to be spoken about. So the vision that I have for this podcast is to help my fellow Christians, offer encouragement to my fellow Christians, and but to also encourage and inspire the people who are on the fence of Christianity or who are new to Christianity. Again, trying to bridge the secular world with this world of Christianity, which to an outsider can really look wacky, but I don't want people to compromise themselves. There's a very fine line between living in the world and being of the world, right? So we don't want to compromise our Christianity, our views, our morals in any type of way, but we also don't want to hate the world that we're living in. Like I've heard so many Christians say, I'm just ready for Jesus to come back and I hate being here. And I don't think that that's God's vision for us being in this earth. He still made this incredibly beautiful place for us to live. It's not going to be the forever home that he thought it was going to be. It's just a stopover, but still, it's a beautiful place to be with lots of opportunity. And I think that we need to learn as Christians how to embrace it with open arms. We're called to be the salt. And where do we put salt? We put it on the food. The food doesn't flavor us, but we flavor the food. So, and as the Apostle Paul says, we're to be all things to all people, not all things to people who agree with us or who live the same lives we do, but to all people. And I find it really funny, this relationship that I have now with God and with my husband, because my husband has never known a day without God. He's from the beginning, his parents, my in-laws, my amazing in-laws, had such an influence on his life and his brothers' lives. And, they're all lovers of God. They're all lovers of Jesus. And they've led church. Each one of them has led church at some point in their lives. So Pastor Chris has some views that I don't, but I also have views that he doesn't. So I wasn't always walking with God. I always believed in God, but my journey was a little bit different. And I think it's funny because sometimes we'll have discussions, well, all the time. And I'll say something from an experience that I had in the past, or sometimes like for an example, like dating life before I was married. And he'll just look at me, shake his head and be like, I don't know that world. That's a completely different world to me. So I feel like that's a balance that Pastor Chris and I have, you know, and it's beautiful. I can ask him things if I don't understand, and he can help me get a deeper understanding of God, a deeper love for God, a deeper connection to God, and vice versa. When he is thinking of a message or he talks about something, I can provide a different perspective. So we are equally yoked because we're both believers of Jesus, but there's different degrees, right? Like I said, he's never not known a day without God, and he studied the Bible. You know, my goal is to get deeper into the Bible, a deeper understanding of it. But as of right now, I mean, my education's a little bit juvenile, I would say, you know, so, but it's beautiful when we can speak to each other and offer different perspective on like the same verse or something, you know, so I love that symbiosis of our relationship that way. So I think the biggest obstacle for me is overcoming the why me question. Who do I think I am that I feel I can put out this podcast and speak about the things of God? I'm not a minister. I'm not ordained. I haven't studied the Bible, as I said, as intensely as some other people. And I'm highly uncomfortable, you know, as you can see, like I'm kind of stuttering a little bit. I am uncomfortable in this position, but that's by God's design. You know, he brings people to uncomfortable places in order for them to rely on him, and then he will do it through them. And then you'll have a testimony when everything is done and say, look what the Lord has done. So a great example of that in the Bible are the disciples. When you think about it, you know, Matthew, he had nobody. I think he's by far one of my favorite disciples, Matthew. He was a tax collector. So he was ostracized by his family, his community, the people he was working for didn't like him. So he was truly all alone. And, you know, Jesus comes up to him one day and says, follow me. And, you know, some of the other disciples are like, why him? And I'm sure Matthew's like, are you serious? Like, nobody likes me. Why are you asking me to follow you? So, I've just found that so beautiful, and it's inspiring for me and comforting for me. And, you know, when God calls you, he equips you. The thing that I find is if you have the courage to obey him and the calling that he's placed on your life. You know, I could hide it. I could not put it out. And I'm not the only one who's battled with God saying, are you sure that you want me to do this? You know, am I the one that you want to put all your eggs in one basket with this task? There's many people in the Bible who fought with God. Gideon fought with God. He made God perform a miracle twice before he finally said, okay. Moses, he was scared that God had chosen him to set his people free out of Egypt, and he used his stutter as an excuse. But there are blessings that can come when you obey God. And you just need to unlock those blessings by obedience. You know, when Moses did what God asked, he was given the power to part the Red Sea. He was given the power to smash open a rock and have all this water come out. And Gideon, he won a war with 60 men. You know, he had so many more, but he whittled it down. So God equips you, but then he'll also make you uncomfortable by depleting your resources. And Gideon, as I said, is a really good example of that. He had so many men and then he whittled it down. It's so that when you win, when Gideon won, he can't say, oh, it's because of all the men that I had behind me. No, it's because of God. Look what the Lord has done. And for me, if I can help one person, if one person can take something positive away from this podcast, if one person feels helped, heard, understood, then that's a blessing for me. So, I mean, I have been wrapped in love. I have been incredibly encouraged from my friends and my family, and I truly appreciate all of you. I definitely wouldn't see myself doing this if I didn't have Pastor Chris as my husband, if I didn't have this community around me. But there were two really big confirmations that happened for me with two amazing people. And it really hit me between the eyes. For the first one, my friend Cindy, she is an amazing woman of God. She's such an inspiration to me. She's got such a powerful prophetic gift that she's just amazing. And we were having coffee one day and I told her, God's put this on my heart and I'm trying to gauge to see what she thinks of it. And she loved it. And I told her how scared I was. And she said, when God gives you something to say and you hold it in, you could be holding back someone's breakthrough. And that just really hit me between the eyes, because I know I've had breakthroughs from Pastor Chris's messages, from my friends who give me their prophetic word, from other pastors online. And if I have something to say and I'm holding someone's breakthrough from them, like, I don't want that responsibility. I don't want to keep that from somebody, because I wouldn't want someone to keep that from me. So that was a really big thing for me. And then the second was my oldest bonus daughter, Jordan. She was dealing with an issue that I am definitely going to be talking about in one of my episodes. So I'm not going to go too deep with it here. But I gave her an encouragement and opinion, I guess, on what was happening. And she said outright, this needs to be talked about in a Christian forum. So again, confirmation that, this podcast really needs to be put out there. And for me, there's issues that our kids, no matter how old they are, adult children, right to toddlers, they're dealing with things that I never had to deal with when I was young. They're dealing with things that, my husband never had to deal with at all. And sometimes it's a little bit foreign for him. So I really feel that the enemy is coming hard and fast for our kids. That is really, really evident from all of my friends that are going through some things with their children. I'm personally going through some things with my children. And it just has the enemy's fingerprints all over it. And I feel like it was God, as soon as she said to me that, this needs to be talked about, and she was very, very emphatic about it, I felt that was God saying, go forward and speak in my name. And, things are going to turn around. Things are going to be changed. And I know that it's really vague, but I don't want to give too much away, because again, it's going to be a topic that I speak about. And I feel like it's going to help a lot of people, Christian and non-Christian. So, as you can see, like, I'm, again, uncomfortable being in this situation. I'm not doing this for any type of like egotistical, vain type of thing. This is something that God has put on my life. And I'm just trying to be obedient. And, throughout my childhood, I didn't have an easy childhood. And I do have a glimpse into that on Pastor Chris's YouTube channel. It's called Our Story. I go into depth I guess, a little bit of depth into what I went through in my childhood. It was a lot of trauma that was inflicted on me from family members throughout the years, but that I also brought on myself by invoking this victim mentality. So whatever happened to me, I felt like I was justified in acting a certain way, which inevitably would hurt somebody, but I justified it by saying, well, this happened to me, so I have a right to act this way, which is incorrect. And that gives a lot of power to the people that abused you in the past, this victim mentality. So, going through that stuff in my past, I was selfish and destructive. But, God was with me through it all. And the purpose that he placed on those things was for a reason, and he's starting to reveal that to me now, I had a real affinity for God at like 8, 9, 10. My mom remarried a man who was a Christian, and he helped me understand a little bit more, had my love grow for Jesus more. But he was also a man who abused me in the dark. So I truly feel like he was, and still is, possessed by a demon, because in the day he would be one person I could go to as a confidant about Jesus, and in the night he was a completely different person. He even looked different, so but through it all, God had me in his hands. And even though I didn't walk with him all of the time, when I questioned him a lot, I said, why is this happening to me? Are you there? Are you listening to me? Everyone goes through that no matter what's happening in your life. Is God actually listening to me? Is he really there? And it would have been really easy for me to say, nope, he doesn't exist, because how could God let this happen to me? And I could have walked away. I know a lot of people who went through things that I went through, who have succumbed to an addiction to drugs, to alcohol, to sex. And that in itself, the fact that I don't have or didn't have any of those addictions, is a miracle. I can look back on it now and say, you know what? God was protecting me. God protected my heart. God protected my faith. And he was there with me. So that I can confidently say, and speak about. And I know that God loves me, and I know that miracles are performed every day. And I just, if you can take a look at your life, and as crappy as it may be in this season, look at the little miracles that you have every single day. They are there. Hindsight is 2020. And the purpose for what I went through is now being revealed, and you guys are a part of it now. And I feel like it's amazing. So the fact that I can still trust in God through everything that I've been through is a huge miracle. And I really hope that someone takes encouragement from that. So that was a little bit about myself. I might get a little bit deeper into some future podcasts, but I don't want this to be about me. I want this to be about what God has put on my life to speak about, to encourage others, to help everybody in the world with. Like, if I can reach not only Christians but non-believers, like that'll be such a huge blessing for me. So again, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who has been patiently waiting for my stubborn self to get over myself and actually come through with this. And now that the first episode is done, I'm a little bit more calm and relaxed, and I hope I didn't ramble too much. And I hope everyone is really as excited for this as I am. Anyone who's looking for encouragement, direction, advice, I can't say that I'm always going to say the right thing or get it right all of the time. And you might not agree with me. It's not a perfect world. Whatever I have to say, someone's probably not going to like, and that's okay. I'm not someone who is so stubborn that they can't see someone else's point of view, even if I don't agree with it. That's where discussion comes from. You know, you can speak to someone who has a differing view from you, still be friends, and still maintain your different views. It's all in how we speak to each other. And with social media, it gets a little easy to throw insults when you're typing them. So, you know, again, not everyone's going to agree with what I have to say, but hopefully that provides for some really great discussion. And I'm excited to see where this little podcast goes. And essentially my ministry, if I can say that. And so I'd like to welcome you guys, everyone officially, to Confessions from a Pastor's Wife.